Hi. Last class we talked about Python and variables, and we had the variables holding very simple values like an age, and then you could type in your age, or a string. We could have a variable for the name of my cat, Sunshine, or something like that. This lecture we're going to talk about a more complex data structure. We're going to talk about lists. And they're often called arrays or vectors in other programming languages. So for example, when you're going to the grocery, oftentimes you have a grocery list. And you have a list on a piece of paper, something that you want apples or carrots, and you want soup, and you want cake. So let's say there's 4 items on my grocery list. So instead of just having one variable name and an equal sign and then one value, with the list we're going to have the variable name, the equal sign, and then multiple values. And we specify the beginning of a list with these square brackets and the end of the list with the ending square bracket, and just commas in between each item in our list. So once we've defined that list, we can print the whole entire thing with a print statement, and we print all 4 items in the list. Or we can print one item from the list at a time. So I could go ahead and print what's in the grocery list, only the first item. So in computer science, most languages, not all of them, but most of them start with 0. Instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they count 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 0 refers to the apples here. So if I say, what's the 0th item? That's like saying, what's the first thing in your list? And then let me use Alt-P. I'm on a PC instead of a Mac. So Alt-P to get back that previous command. And then I can change the index and say, what's the second item in the list? And then I get carrots. What's the third item? Alt-P again, what's the 4th item? And then if I try something that's past the boundary of my list, like what's the 5th item? Well, there isn't a 5th item. We've only got 4 items in our list. What else can you do with lists? So I'm going to switch from a list of strings to a list of numbers. So I'm going to have a list of prices. And let's say these are prices of eating out at like Subway, McDonald's, a fancy restaurant, Olive Garden, eating takeaway pizza from Papa John's or something. So now I've got a list of prices, various prices. And what can I do with that list? Well, with numbers, it would make sense to figure out, well, what is the minimum price? And I can use a min function here. What is the maximum of all these prices? And I see that's 20. And with this list, there's only 5 items, so it's not really a big process to figure out what the minimum and maximum are, or the length, how many items are in there. But if you had a couple hundred items or thousands of items in your list, then you could really save yourself a lot of time by using these functions. So we can add to this list too. There's only 5 items now, but what if we want to add a price? Well, we can use a method append, or function append, where we can add a new item to the list. So we'll say 30 is the next price. And now if I print my prices, I can see 30 has been added. What about changing an item in the list? Well, here I can use that index, the square brackets, and if I want to change the first item, that number 10, we remember that in Python, 0 is how we access the first item in the list. And we can set it equal to, instead of 10, we could set it equal to 9. And then I look at my prices, and 9 is indeed the first item in the list. There's also something cool called slicing, and it's a way to get a sublist, or part of your list, but not the whole thing necessarily. So I could say, I'm interested in the prices, but I want to skip that first one, and I want to go to the price with index 1, which is really my second item in this list, and I want to go all the way to the 4th item, but stop before I get to the 4th item. So what that does, it skips 0, and then it picks up the second price with index 1 and 2 and 3, and then it stops before it prints the 4th one. So the two numbers in these square brackets are the first price that you want to pick up, and the one you want to stop at. This one's not included in your sub array that you're getting, or the sub list. So let's try another example. So what if I were to leave out the first number? If I leave out the first number before the colon, it'll start at the first item in the array or the list, the 0th item. So let's say I want 0 through, and I want to stop when I get to index 3. So now I get 0, and then 1, and then 2, and then I stop. And let's try one more. So I've got prices, and this time I'll put in, let's start at index 2, and this time I'll leave off the ending index. And I'll see, well, we skip over 0 and we skip over 1, and we'll start with 2 and then capture 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to the end of the list because we didn't specify a stopping point. So pretty cool. Those are lists.